my love, let's talk about being 30. I turned 30 last year, which means this year I am turning 31, and it has really opened up a serious new chapter in my life that I want to talk about with you and see what your experience is and see if you resonate with anything that I am sharing, because I am finding that when I turned 30, it was like opening up a whole new era in my life that brought about a lot of different changes, different reflections. I started feeling more of the pressure around kids, beauty, my body, career. So I want to talk about all of these things and also share how I am celebrating and what I am doing looking forward so that I can step into this decade of my life with more love, joy, and ease. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. I just started, but I'm hopeful. Okay, let's get into it. Let's start by taking a quick look back at my 20s, because this was a really important decade for me as well that, quite frankly, I wouldn't necessarily relive, but I also would not change anything in my 20s. I think growing up, there is a myth around the 20s being the best decade of your life. We see this in shows like Friends or New Girl or even just other popular media. And honestly, I did have some of the most incredible highlights in my 20s, but I also had the lowest lows, like the worst depression, the worst anxiety, some of the worst trauma that I experienced, and it required me to really focus on my healing. In fact, I started my self-love journey the day that I turned 21. There was a huge awakening for me that I really had to focus on my self-love if I wanted to live a healthy and nourishing life and also have healthy, nourishing relationships. So my 20s were really focused on loving myself, and I gotta say, it paid off. I'm not gonna go too deep into details here, but focusing on my self-love in my 20s, I believe really set me up for feeling phenomenal physically, emotionally, and mentally in my 30s. And I believe that this not only paid off internally, but it also is giving me a lot of strength, because looking forward, a lot of the changes that I'm experiencing as I turn 30 seem to be a lot more external. I'm really seeing that there are a lot of external challenges that are happening and that are going to come my way, because that is a natural part of life. And I feel that the work that I put into my 20s to build strong mental health, physical health, emotional health, and a strong pillar within is really helping me to navigate those things outside of me with more confidence. I don't want to say more ease, because it's not easy, but it definitely gives me more confidence, and I feel like I have the tools to really replenish and honor myself. So that is a highlight that I will say I feel really, really good about being 30. And I'm really excited about this decade in this chapter, even though it's not necessarily what I expected. So I want to open up a discussion, as I mentioned, about some of the things that have been coming up for me with turning 30 that I'm feeling. And I am really just feeling a yearning to hear from others as well who are in this stage of life, to hear how you're experiencing this stage, how you're navigating it, what's helping you, what surprised you, what are you finding challenging, so that we can really find validation and support with one another. Because as we grow up, I feel like there are so many natural mile markers, or maybe they're not natural, they're like societally imposed, but turning 16 and getting your driver's license, turning 18 and being a legal adult, turning 21 and being able to get alcohol, turning 25 and being able to rent a car and your brain is fully developed, and 26 you're off your parents' insurance. Like, there's all these little stages going up to your 30s, and then it almost feels like you step into the abyss, right? Everybody's kind of on similar societal mile marker, even though it's still arbitrary. And then afterwards, it's kind of like a free fall. That's kind of what I feel like. Entering 30, I'm realizing that everyone is kind of in a different stage. Not everybody's in the same stage of life at 30. And this has been really, really interesting to me. I think a really big area for women, and that's really where a lot of my conversation is going to be around. But of course, if you identify otherwise, I'd love to hear your thoughts too, and what your experience is. I really find that turning 30 has really made me feel more of the pressure around having kids, starting a family, and this has been a really big change for me within that I've had, just to be vulnerable. I grew up always thinking that I wanted children. I never ever questioned it. I had a really great childhood, even though in my adolescence I had a really hard time. I had a great childhood. I have 2 incredible siblings that I'm super close with. I had a whole squad of cousins that we would always get together. I had great friendships. So I always kind of glamorized childhood and wanted to bring life into the world because I loved that so much and had such a great experience. And a couple years ago, I will be totally honest, my entire worldview really, really shifted from a couple things. First, it was 2 years ago, there was the shooting at the elementary school in Texas, and it really hurt my soul. It really, really, really hurt, and it just made me feel like, oh my gosh, children in our country, in the US, are just not valued. And they are just not safe, despite what so many politicians claim to say about life being the most valuable thing. You know, the people that are very pro-life, personally, I don't see them sticking by those values because I don't see actual children who are alive being treated well. I've seen that with the shootings. I've seen that with kids getting separated from their parents at the border. I've been seeing that with the genocide in Gaza. I know that's not taking place in the US, but it is US funded. I really, really, really hate to see how children are treated and how families and parents are treated, and it feels really scary to me. And I hate to be someone to be working off of fear, but I would be lying if I didn't acknowledge that that has really affected me and impacted my perception about whether or not I want to have kids. That was the first event that really took place that made me go, I don't know if I can do this. I am somebody that already has struggled a lot with anxiety, with depression, with worry. I already get so scared about losing my loved ones that are alive, and I'm really working on that. I'm really working on reframing those thoughts into being more positive. But frankly, for me, I'm like, I don't know if I could bring a child into a society where they're not going to be valued and when their life is not going to be upheld and valued at all costs, right? I don't want to bring a child into a world where they are disposable. I don't know if I can take that on mentally and emotionally, and that's a really difficult discussion to have with myself, with my partner, in the world, because I think a lot of people feel it, and it's a scary thing to admit because it's not necessarily something that is aligned with my heart, but it's something that is like, it's this weighing of what does my heart want, or what did my heart want, and reconciling that with the current reality. And gosh, I know that sounds so bleak, but again, this is just a conversation and I want to hear other people's thoughts. Then the next thing was, of course, all of the legal changes that have been happening around abortion and women's right to choose, and not just women, but anybody who can give birth, their right to choose whether or not they want to give birth. And it really made me realize how much I valued my own personal freedom and how much I valued my own personal choice and how important that was. And these things really shifted my worldview. I'm not kidding, overnight. Like, I woke up one morning and was like, oh fuck, I don't know if I want to have kids. And I'll be honest with you, I am still undecided. I find myself flip-flopping a lot. And I want to bring this up because I find that the conversation around having kids can be so black and white. It's either all yes, I've always known I wanted to have kids, that's the thing to do, or it's I've always known I didn't want to have kids and this is 100% the right direction for me. Both are so valid, and I support anybody's right to choose what is best for them. But within that, there is a whole spectrum of people that are weighing different options, right? Maybe people are not having kids out of circumstance because they haven't found the right partner, or there's certain health considerations that they have. Or maybe you're like me, where it's like, wow, I'm really weighing in the factors of our political world, our social world, and also looking at my own values, right? I'm really realizing something for myself is I really value my time freedom, my energy freedom, and that feels wonderful. I also have an incredible relationship, and I want to soak that up as much as possible. I had a really, really difficult teenage years and really difficult 20s, and I finally feel like I'm at the point where I am truly loving life every single day, and I'm like, man, this feels good. I just want to keep the good times going, and why do I need to commit one direction or another right now when frankly I'm really focused on the day-to-day and enjoying my everyday? And I get a little bit frustrated because people tend to make comments that assume that my partner and I are going to have kids, or assume that I'm going to have kids, and that feels really kind of off-putting. Even though I know it's such a norm in our society, it feels a little bit off-putting because I am like, I have value as a person, right? And I think for so many women, it's so weird because there's this switch that happens where it's like you are only valued for your looks and your beauty and your sexuality. And then once you reach like the years that you should be having kids, it's like this switch happens where then your value is viewed as only coming from having kids and procreating. And I'm like, what the heck, guys? I'm my own human being. And, you know, I want to be seen as my own human being, just as all women and people who do choose to become parents are their own human being. Yes, maybe parenthood and motherhood is a huge part of their life and their identity, but they are a fully well-rounded whole person. And going through this process within myself of evaluating is having kids or not having kids the path for me has really allowed me to reevaluate how I also view other women in my life and around me, and really honoring who they are as whole people, not just for the things that society tells us is valuable about women. And I found that I had a lot of internalized ideas that I had to reconstruct, that I had to change, because it was affecting not only how I was viewing myself, but also other people. Now, I'm very fortunate. I have a partner that I'm super, super close with, and I've been very honest about this conversation with him. And it's a decision, quite frankly, that is really just between the two of us. And I feel really grateful that I'm supported by him each step of the way. But I am living in this place of uncertainty. So I want to hear what your experience has been. You know, turning 30 or being in your 30s, do you feel this pressure to have kids or to not have kids, or to feel judged one way or another? And how are you coping with it? How are you handling that and navigating that within? What are your considerations? Because I'm really frustrated with the black and white conversation. You know, there's so many nuances in this conversation that I really think deserve to be recognized. And there is space, in my opinion, for multitudes to exist, right? I can envision, just to share my own experience, I can envision a world where having a family would be a beautiful, beautiful experience. I don't know if that's the current reality that I live in, And that makes me feel really sad. And at the same time, I also find myself being really excited about the possibilities that open up with the idea of potentially not having kids, the idea of being able to really travel more or to be there more for my family that I currently do have, and to really show up for them, to really show up in my relationship, to explore different hobbies and interests that maybe I would have to put aside if I did have kids, right? So there are all of these multitudes that exist. And with that being said, I want to make it very clear that I love and support all women in whatever their choices and decisions are that are right for them. I have friends and family that are having kids. I have friends and family that are not having kids. I love children myself. I love being an aunt and being around them. And I think any choice is valid. But I also want to open up this conversation to recognize the nuances and to also say that it's okay to take your time with such a big decision. And I think in our society, people treat it very willy-nilly, and people are like, oh, well, you'll figure it out. Oh, well, you don't need to worry about that. Oh, well, you might say, oh, well, it's really expensive and I don't know if I can manage my day-to-day, and I don't want to be tied to a job that I hate and then not have time to spend with my kids. Oh, you'll figure it out. No, this is something that each person has to decide for themselves, because only you know your lifestyle, your circumstance, your values, your health, your needs, your relationship. It's such a personal conversation, and we really need to stop projecting our own ideals on other people. So, would love to hear your thoughts on that, because clearly I've been talking about it for a while, and it's something that has been very, very present for me as I have turned 30 and am feeling more of that pressure, and I'm finding myself having to really intentionally carve out energetic space to push out the noise of what anybody else is saying, to really tune into my own heart, to know and find out what I want. And I'm learning to be okay with marinating in the uncertainty, because I don't know yet. And guess what? That's valid too. Right? It's valid to want, it's valid to not want, and it's really valid to not know, and to really weigh your options accordingly and according to what is right and true and necessary for you. Let's talk about beauty, because this is another area that I feel as women, we get a ridiculous amount of pressure of putting our value on our beauty. Now, you can see me here. I put makeup on, I put jewelry on, I do my hair, I have my cute little top. I love beauty. I think that it is one of the most wonderful elements of being human, of being on earth. We see beauty reflected all around us in the natural world. Animals have certain patterns for the sake of beauty. Flowers have certain colors and vibrancy for the sake of beauty. I come from a family of artists. Beauty is entrenched in every part of my being. I love beauty as an element of life. However, what I want to talk about here is the pressure for beauty being linked only with young age and with youth and superficial beauty. I'm not talking about this well-rounded, soulful beauty that I believe is infused within all of us throughout our entire lifetime. I'm talking about the superficial beauty and pressure to look like a teenager at all ages. That is really intense, and it was really funny because when I was about to turn 30, like in the months leading up, I got this overwhelming fear of being like, oh my God, am I gonna lose all my value the minute I turn 30 because I'm gonna lose my beauty? And am I gonna get, am I getting fine lines? Do I need to change my skincare routine? What's gonna happen? I just felt all of this fear around turning 30 and how that would impact my beauty and potentially diminish my value in society and in the world. I know that sounds like so crazy extreme, but you might resonate with this because we see it all around us, right? I see it a lot, and I think it's getting more intense day by day, the anti-aging pressures for young women, and all women especially, where, we see these children, 12, 10, 11, 12-year-olds, girls who are using skincare products that aren't meant for their skin. Because why? What's the root of that? They are fearing aging. And why are they fearing aging? The fear of aging comes from the root of worrying that you're going to lose your value. Now, I think it does go much deeper than that. I think that the real fear, even below that, is the fear of having to acknowledge that life is finite and that change happens. And that's part of the human condition that is, quite frankly, really scary. And I think that a lot of us try to avoid those feelings and try to overcome those feelings by clinging to our youth and clinging to our beauty. And I would love to see us soften a little bit more, and this is something I'm working on with myself, and allowing ourselves to flow with the energy of change and to embrace ourselves at each stage. I'm also seeing a lot of women experiencing a lot of pressure with getting more cosmetic procedures done, getting Botox, getting just different things done to their body and their face. And I think every woman has the right to choose what feels great for them. I certainly invest in certain beauty things. I get my eyebrows done. I buy nice makeup. I buy nice clothes. Everyone has the right and ability to choose how they want to exemplify their own beauty, right? And there's no wrong choice. However, I think it's extremely important to be discerning with oneself. And I'm sharing this from my own experience, because in the time leading up to 30, I found myself questioning, like, oh my gosh, do I need to get some of this stuff done? Should I start doing Botox? Should I start doing this, that, and the other? And I really had to pull back and stop myself and ask, where is this coming from? Why do I feel this pressure? And is that actually something I want to do? Or is that something that I'm feeling pressure to do because of these external voices? And when I took the time to really reflect and journal with myself about it, I found that I was feeling that pressure externally, and it wasn't something that was actually aligned with what I really wanted for myself. It wasn't aligned with my actual values and how I wanted to spend my money, time, or energy. And that's really what it comes down to, right? And I think sometimes when we haven't taken the time to get to know ourselves and tune into ourselves, it's easy to be swept away with this current of what everyone else wants you to do. Same thing with the previous subject of having kids, right? When we haven't taken the time to really question it for ourselves, it's easy to just go with what society wants and not really know for ourselves what is right and true for us. So I definitely felt that pressure, and I really found myself having to take a step back and be like, wait a second, this actually doesn't feel good for me. And it's okay if it does feel good for some women, but it's not for me, and I need to pause and recognize where this is coming from. This also really led me to reevaluate my relationship with my own value and with beauty, and to really examine, like, wow, well, how do I want to celebrate myself? What do I find beautiful? And where can I find really positive aging role models? Because I have decided for myself, and who knows, maybe this might change down the line, that I don't really want to do any procedures on my face or my body. I do invest in skincare, I invest in makeup, I eat well, I move, all of these things, but I don't want to do some of the more synthetic activities. That doesn't feel aligned with me. So I have been looking at, okay, well, who can I look up to? And I am so lucky because I have really positive and beautiful aging role models that have aged naturally I look at my mom, who I think is so gorgeous and beautiful, and has this beautiful long hair that she's let go white, and my Ima, who is her mom, my grandma, same thing. She dresses so elegant every day, but she has her beautiful white hair. And my grandma, before she passed, always, slept with a silk pillow, and I just loved holding her hand and embracing her. And I look at these women not just for their physical beauty, but for what they emanate. And I find that the women that I see and look up to are the ones that are connected with themselves, the ones that are connected with their own soul, that invest in the things they're interested in and are always learning. They're always learning and they're always growing. And I find that so beautiful and alluring. And so that is something that I have been trying to connect with in myself of, okay, how do I continue to build a strong inner pillar within myself to guide me through all of these external forces and external voices that seem to be coming in. So I have been painting, and I have been really enjoying dressing up for fun, just aligned with my own essence and my own soul. I have been tuning more into my own energy and moving from that place of soulful excitement. And I have found this route to be really empowering. And this doesn't mean that those fears don't come in, or that worry of, okay, well, if I'm not beautiful, I lose my value. Those fears do come in, but the way that I've been combating them is by tuning into my heart center, celebrating where I'm at today, and really embracing that and honoring that. So I really want to get rid of this idea that beauty is only associated with youth and looking really young or looking like everybody else, because beauty really is so much more than that. And there's beauty in aging, there's beauty in wisdom, there's beauty of knowing yourself, of being rooted in yourself, of honoring your heart, of listening to your soul and moving from that place. And that is something to me that has really shifted as I turn 30. I'm really embracing that more and more. And I find that I have been able to let go of a lot of the insecurities that really riddled my 20s. I struggled a lot with, disordered eating in my early 20s and my teenage years, and went on a really long journey to learn how to love my body. And I'm finding that it's really paying off now. And I actually did make a video about this, about my story of loving my body. And also, if it interests you and this is something that you want to work on, I also have an online course about how to love your body called Building Body Love, that teaches you all of these really awesome self-love tools to love the body that you are in today. This is for women of all ages, and I think you'll really enjoy it. I actually still use all of these tools, and it's really given me a lot of confidence. Next topic is on career. So I will be totally honest with you. I am not somebody that work is like a super important part of my life. I know that sounds bad, but I think that in the US, we have so much pressure around our jobs and our career. I do have a 9-to-5 and I like it. I love the people that I work with. I find it really engaging. I really enjoy what I do day to day. But it is not the center of my life. I think it provides financial security. It provides personal engagement with people I enjoy being around. It provides opportunities for growth that feel good for me. But for me, it's much more of a launching pad to focus on everything else in my life that I really love. My family, my friends, my artwork, my self-love garden, sharing with you, traveling, all of these other things. And I have found with turning 30, I've really changed my mindset on career, because in my early 20s and throughout my whole 20s, I felt a lot of pressure around finding a career path that I just 110% loved, and it was my life passion, and it was my life purpose, and I was making millions of dollars. That's a valid dream, and I support you if you have that. I still think it would be a wonderful, wonderful thing to have. However, for myself, I have really had to shift this idea around career in order to experience more joy and abundance in my life. I have come to a place where I have wanted to find a good enough job where I feel secure, I feel engaged, I feel connected, but it's not the center, and it allows me to give space to everything else, and that feels really, really good. I've also changed career paths many, many times, and I used to really judge myself for this. I was like, why don't I just freaking stick to one thing? And like what's wrong with me? Like, why can't I just choose one path? And the more the more I go in life, the more I realize how truly ridiculous that idea is. That works for some people, but not a lot of people. And, I was visiting home recently and playing with my nephew, and I was just kind of watching his day-to-day. He's 4 years old, and he has so many interests, right? He wakes up, he jumps on his little trampoline, he goes out in the garden, he plays with his cars, he plays his little guitar, he sings some songs, he plays Duolingo, and he follows his natural intuitive interests. And when I came home, I thought to myself, oh, wow, that's really interesting how as adults, we are forced into these paths that are so one way. They're so narrow. And when we're children, we're really encouraged to explore all of our interests and to follow our intuition. And as we grow up, it's like, okay, you choose one thing and then stick to it for the rest of your life. And I'll be damned if that isn't the most dooming freaking mentality I've ever heard. That's great if you truly find something that you love and want to stick with it. And I know many people like that, friends that have gone into medicine or architecture or whatever. But honestly, it's not for everyone. And I have found that it's not for me, and I'm okay with that. And I'm really enjoying embracing the multitude of my interests, painting, Italian, exploring different career paths, even in the form of a 9-to-5 job. And I found that it has given me so many different skill sets that have really elevated my life experience, and that feels awesome. Okay, let's share a little bit more about some of the deeper things of being 30 that have really been apparent to me. So turning 30 has also really made me realize that everything around me has changed and is changing. I really felt like when I turned 30, it felt like I kind of really closed the first big chapter of my life. That for better or worse, that's how my first 30 years of my life went. Overall, I feel really good about my life that I've lived so far. I've been really intentional about it. I've had incredible experiences, great friendships, even though through that there have also been tremendous challenges and tremendous struggles. And when I turned 30, I felt a big honoring of that. And I also felt kind of this opening of a new chapter of possibility, and also recognizing that, wow, as I'm getting older, everyone in my life is getting older too. And that brings about some complicated and kind of hard feelings. My grandma passed away earlier this year, which has been really difficult. I was really close with her. I'm seeing my parents, both of them are overall in good health, but, they're in their 60s, and I'm seeing some of the changes that are happening with them in their physical bodies, of having to slow down a little bit, having to adjust certain things. And I'm really feeling this need to spend more time with them, to spend more time with my family, to spend more time with my parents, my siblings, my nephew, because as I get older, everyone is getting older too. And I have struggled with kind of the dark side of the feelings and emotions that can bring up. And I've had to learn how to kind of pull back and look at the positive sides too of, well, I'm so lucky that I'm now in a place where I have the resources to go home more frequently to visit my family. I'm in a place where I feel more emotionally replenished and mentally healthy, where when I am with my family, I can be really present. And what I'm finding is that I am really needing to pull more on these internal resources to navigate my life path forward, because I am seeing that life is going to bring its natural challenges. It already has, but I think that before turning 30, my focus was very inward. It was really focused on like, whoa, I need to get myself to a place where I can even exist day to day. I really struggled a lot with like my mental health, my physical health, my well-being, and I had to just get to a place where I could be steady, where I could be safe, and it was harder for me to focus on the external world because I was crumbling inside, and I had to make sure had a strong foundation internally. Now I feel like I have that strong foundation, and I'm so grateful because there's so many changes happening around me, in my family, in the world, economically, politically, that I am like, holy shit, this is a new era. I need to really stand strong in my own being, to be present with those that I love, to bring positive energy into the world, to make sure that I am financially secure, to make sure that I can show up for myself and who I need to be. And I really need to honor my health too, so that I can do that. So that's kind of one of the deeper things that has come up around turning 30 that has been more challenging. But I think because of the way that I spent my 20s, and I'm going to make a video on this also, it really gave me the strength to be here now. The 30s definitely are bringing out a lot of changes, but I'm also really, really excited for this decade, and I feel really good in myself today. So I want to end on a positive note because there are so many things that I'm excited about looking forward and about my 30s. As I mentioned at the beginning, I feel phenomenal in my body, my mind, my emotions, and this is such a joy. This is actually something that I want to celebrate because I worked so hard to be here today and to feel this good inside myself, and I'm really excited to channel that energy into new and exciting endeavors. I am really enjoying reconnecting with my creativity. Last year, I really started painting again, which is something I used to love and stopped doing. I'm really enjoying not caring as much what other people think about me and really following my own interests. I haven't been on Instagram or Facebook for nearly 4 years, which I'm going to make a video about as well to share my experience there. And I find that I'm so much more easily able to tune into what I truly want and what I truly want to experience. And that feels so awesome. I am excited to have new experiences with my family, to explore the world, and just to open up to possibility. I find that I'm really reframing and changing a lot of the expectations that I felt like I had growing up in the US, where I'm also really learning to disconnect from the attachment to achievement and external, like, societal success, and really I'm learning to focus more on feeling, learning how to tune into my daily energy and asking myself, what would feel good today? What does my heart want? What does my body want? What would feel good in this moment, in this day? And really following that path. And I'm really excited to see where that takes me. I'm learning to move more with my cycles and seasonally, and to tune into my intuition and to really trust that instead of listening to all of these external voices. So I'm really, really excited about the 30s. Yes, there's still elements that I'm nervous about or that bring up fear, but overall, I feel great with being 30. I think that there is so much fear that we feel as women with turning 30 that is really valid because it comes from like all directions. But if you're watching this, and you're younger than 30, I want to say the 30s so far are awesome. Yes, I'm only 30. I'm going to be 31 this year, but I feel great. I really, really do. And I'm learning to hold space for all the complexity and uncertainty. So I want to hear how your 30s are treating you. I want to hear from you if you are in your early 30s, mid 30s, late 30s, just turned 30. I want to hear what your thoughts are on the topics I shared, about kids, career, beauty. What pressures have you felt? How have you navigated it? What are you struggling with? What are you enjoying? What has been surprising you about your 30s? I think that we can really support each other and validate each other in this era. And this is really an era that I think deserves to be acknowledged and really celebrated. So I'm so happy to be in my 30, flirty, thriving era with you, and I hope you feel the same. And feel free to drop in the comments below what your experience is. I'd love to hear from you. And as I mentioned, if you are wanting to focus on loving your body in this era, maybe your body has changed in the last couple of years, or you are just wanting to dive more into self-love, I have 2 really great options for you. I have a free How to Love Your Body in 3 Days course on my website that you can sign up for that I'll link below. This is a 3-day email course that sends you a meditation and journaling prompts every day to help you love your body as it is in this moment. And I also have an online course on Udemy that will really dive deeper and teach you the lifelong skills you need to love your body and yourself for a lifetime. So how to befriend your body, how to diminish negative thoughts, how to break free from communal body shaming, and to release your attachment to weight as being equated with your level of happiness. So lots of great juicy goodness in there. I hope you check it out, and I will see you next time. Ciao!